Thursday, March 6th. Welcome back to Damon Bruce Plus. We are also thinking out loud with our very good friend Sam Batesh. And man, we have a lot of significant NFL news to go over from the last 48 hours. You can feel the league year starting to come at us here, Sam. Wheels are turning.
This is real. This is real. I mean, it is happening. News is flying at us. It feels like the draft is next week, not next month, right? I mean, it's as if it's on top of us. I really can't believe it, D. This is such an exciting month already. And again, the combine obviously gives us what it gives us, but this is so much more than I anticipated. It really is. And now when you got Bosa now, looking at the fact that Bosa's available, which I know we're going to get to, I don't want to blow it for us, but free agency, draft, etc., and it's really happening.
No, that's where we're starting, Sammy, because the news came across the wire kind of late last night, right? The 9-year run for Joey Bosa and the Los Angeles, used to be San Diego Chargers, has come to an end. A $25.36 million cap casualty. So I understand why the Chargers made this move. All you need to do, so let's just start with this. It's been so long since he's been so good. We kind of have forgotten how good he was there for a minute, right?
Right.
5-time Pro Bowler who started his career with 19 sacks in his first 20 games. That is an NFL record that has still not been touched. He wore the crown of highest paid non-quarterback for quite a while until his brother, I think, took it from him, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, yes.
And this is a guy that, when healthy and available, was an absolute destructive force. He never was able, though, to be part of the reason why the Chargers changed their fortunes around. And I think we always kind of scored that against him. And then, like all players, you know, your best ability is availability. When availability is taken away from you, it's been rough for Bosa. Only 28 games over his last 3 seasons. So Joey Bosa out on these NFL streets, everybody starts linking him directly with his brother, and we will do that. But before we even get into how he would fit with the Niners, around the Niners, and how that could even possibly happen, what number do you think Bosa is going to be looking for coming off a $25 million salary? Like, he's not going to drop down to 5 to just come play with his kid brother.
Well, is there though a discount for that idea? Now, I understand you only have so many years that you are going to play at an elite level in this league, of course, and he knows, and he's feeling right now as if maybe those skills are not quite what they were, because I'm sure when he signed and got drafted by the Chargers, considering the type of player that he has been throughout his life, he's thinking, this will be my career. I'm going to set records here. San Diego, LA, this is where I live, this is where I exist. And yet now, to be told goodbye, that changes things considerably. This is different. I mean, being a free agent in the way that we all know, this is the sweepstakes for Joey Bosa, that's one thing. To be released, they said goodbye, that changes things. And now, yes, he truly does have his pick of the litter because he's no longer tied to the Chargers, but this is much different. He's not feeling at the top of his game. He can't. So I think there is a discount for Bosa right now. It is possible to make this happen, and you can't tell me that the idea that he would play with his brother isn't tantalizing, not just for the fact that it's his brother. His brother is a game wrecker. I mean, this is not right. It's not like, oh, yeah, I'll go hang out with my brother happens to be on the 49ers. No. My brother is the face of the 49ers defense.
Right. And this isn't like, I want to go play with my brother and, oh, by the way, he's a Carolina Panther. So now I'm taking a step back in terms of ever competing for a playoff position ever again. This is a team that fancies itself a contender going into next year, that has an awful lot of things going for it going into next year, even with all the problems that have been very well documented. So there is reason that he would want to come to the 49ers had his brother not even been on the team, right?
Who wouldn't want to be a part of it? I mean, look, you're watching this team in the Super Bowl twice over the last 4 seasons, and you're saying to yourself, all right, they're that close. Could I be that piece, that difference? And something I know you're quite aware of, the Hargrave thing did not exactly work out the way that it was supposed to. And trust me, look, as an Eagles fan, after the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, I didn't want to see Hargrave. I didn't want to see him leave. I thought that was going to be a great move. The other name I want to throw at you, Damon, Chase Young. which I thought was going to change this league forever. I thought that when that happened at the trade deadline 2 seasons ago, I said, forget it. There it is.
So excited about, and then Chase Young shows up, and you understand immediately why Washington traded him. He went off script. He did not play hard. This is a guy who got caught jogging in the NFC title game, and that was the moment where I think all trust was broken with Chase Young. He literally has the worst rep you will ever see on film in an NFC championship game. So that right there was a moment for Chase Young. And obviously, what did he catch on with New Orleans? Hardly even heard from him this year.
Exactly. So when the Saints were 2-0 for a moment, I thought, okay, great. And then months ago, when you and me and Siciliano were on, we spoke about, hey, what are some great trades that could happen? And I thought at that time, wow, Detroit losing Hutchinson, maybe they get Chase Young. But I'm sure Detroit took a look as well and said, and in fact, they did. They ended up with Zary Smith instead. So Chase Young essentially has evaporated since that trade.
Here's how Nick Bosa becomes a San Francisco 49er.
I want you to set this up. Give me the menu.
This is the only way Nick Bosa becomes a San Francisco 49er, because let's talk about what he's not. He's not young. He's not spry. He is not someone who's got a long future in front of him. The Niners have already said they need to be a lot more financially responsible, and they want to get younger. So he does not check a lot of the boxes that they're looking for. Do they need an edge rusher? They sure do. Would they like that guy to be as good as Joey Bosa when Joey Bosa is actually healthy enough to be out there doing that? They sure would. Does Joey Bosa really want to come and play with his brother? Like, this isn't just like a fairy tale Nickelodeon special bullshit. Like, you really do. You wake up in the morning thinking, I need to spend more time with my family. Life is short. This is precious. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. My parents will come out here. They'll rent a place in fucking, Los Gatos for a minute, because we'll be able to afford that. And we're going to do this. We're going to do it. West Coast Bosas. Do you want to do it? Do you want to really do it? You really, really want to do it? Well, then if he does, it is not up to the 49ers to give him the deal he seeks. It is up to him to give the 49ers the deal they can't refuse. He needs to walk into Parag Marate's office and said, I'm ready to sign right now. 2 years, $18 million, only 8 of it guaranteed. I'm giving you a deal you cannot say no to, and a deal that, God forbid, I only am able to play 9 games next year, does not sink your franchise because you got into the damaged goods business with Joey Bosa. He has to make it so easy to sign him that they say, well, we can't not do this. It's like when my wife sees a pair of shoes that are on sale. She's like, I can't afford to not buy these.
Right. It's not about the total cost at the end. It's about what the savings actually are in the end, right? It's not about
more than the pump.
Yeah. It's not that these are $1,200 shoes. It's that they were $3,200 shoes, and now I'm getting them. That's the difference here, Damon. You've hit it on the head precisely. Look, as an Eagles fan, do I want this to happen? No, but let's take that hat off and just look at the NFC for what it is and look at what the Eagles just did to the Chiefs on that defensive line. And now guys that are going to be up for money in Milton Williams, in Josh Sweat. We know that Jalen Carter's a game wrecker for years to come in this league, what Jordan Davis did. The defensive line, every team in the league is now saying, oh, wow, that's what Howie Roseman's been obsessed with, the defensive line. The Niners are no stranger to having madmen on the defensive line. This is how you build that team through the defensive line. If you can get to the other quarterback, and who knows this better than the Niners that, by the way, had an NFC championship that they love to tell people they would have won had their quarterback not been hurt. Remember, he wasn't hurt warming up before the game. He was hurt because Hassan Reddick destroyed him off the defensive line.
Second series of the game.
Right. No. My point is defensive line wrecking a game. In other words, it wasn't as if, he didn't stumble and hurt himself. He hurt him. The defensive line is what changed the fate of that season for the 49ers on the other side. The Niners know this can be that kind of move to have Joey and Nick together. And by the way, I was looking at it last night. You want to think in your mind, you're thinking, oh yeah, Ohio State, they must have had such a great run. They never played together in Ohio State either. So you have to think that these two have been plotting something like this. I mean, the idea that they would both make it to the NFL is wild enough, but the chance to play together, we didn't get to see it with the Watt brothers. I think you mentioned the McCourties, obviously, which is just incredible with what happened in New England there. I want this to happen. And I think you're right. You got to walk in and say, you know what? We're doing this. Have the meeting have Nick in the office too, and just say, we're going to do it this way. And again, plenty of incentives. So it's worth it for him in the end. So there's more money to be making on this thing, but that's what this should be about.
It should be literally be Nick and Bosa, Nick and Joey walking into the office at the same time saying, hey, my brother's here to give you the deal of your lifetime, and I'm here to restructure. Let's get this done by lunch.
Done. We will participate.
By the way,
together.
I've already started slipping my Nick and Joey's around. Somebody's like, you mean Joey Bosa, Damon? Michelle Haberman's like, Joey Bosa. This will also sign us up for a good 2 years of this bullshit.
Yes.
If they do come together, we're going to flip our Joeys and Nicks all the fucking time. So
again, and look at the thumbnail. We will we have a new Bash Brothers in the Bay Area if this happens, right? Well, it'll just be Bosa Bros forever. Forget it. Like we're not even deciphering between the two anymore. But and as I said, Nick already has what I thought was one of the most spectacular, maybe a top 3 play of this season on the wrong end of it. I thought Baker Mayfield escorting Nick out of bounds in that game against the Buccaneers was the most impressive thing I've seen a quarterback do in decades. But Nick is that kind of a player, and to have his brother here, I just can't imagine that the Niners would be any more excited than that. The only thing more interesting this offseason, of course, getting Saleh back, which you've been screaming about that. Yeah, I mean, you've been screaming about it before he was fired, but the day Saleh was gone with the Jets, you were on it. Hello, welcome him back. Whatever it takes, call him whatever he can be. He can be like Sam Rothstein in Casino. He can be the food and beverage manager. Bring him in here, and that's it. Give it to Saleh, and they did.
I want the same amount of blueberries in every muffin.
You know how long that's going to take? I don't care. The equal amount of blueberries in every muffin.
So this is what the 49ers need. Well-distributed blueberries. And it's not just all about one player. Again, Joey Bosa cannot represent a single avenue that choosing him means you can't make other choices. He's got to come in for a number that's really nice, and you're also drafting edge day 2 in this upcoming draft. There's not a lot of future with Joey Bosa. How much future you might have left even with Nick can literally be debated. Tread wears off these tires quickly in this league. But very, very interesting. Bosa's name hit the headlines last night, and every single 49er fan like, groundhog popping his head out of the hole. What just happened? What was that?
And of course, and immediately, of course, and anyone that's an Niners fan, of course, reads it at first as, wait, Nick Bosa was released? What? I mean, what? And then, okay, no, it's his brother. It's, again, you look at a window, Damon. That's the other thing, right? We talk about windows in this league, and unless you're the Chiefs or the Patriots over the last 2 decades, the window is real. It's here, and you better take advantage, and then it's gone. And we all know, and I know we're going to get to it, once the Purdy number changes, all of this math gets really difficult.
Yeah.
And you have the key there. If Joey's in there with Nick saying, we're going to get it done, I say we got to see this for one season, don't we? Goodbye, Hargrave. Hello, Bosa.
Hiroku Hitoki. I hope I got that right. I am going to Japan in a month from now.
I'm so excited for that trip for you.
My pronunciations at the very, very least.
That was great.
I'm still taking Greenlaw over Joey. Why not both? Why not both? By the way, Dre Greenlaw sounds like he is pricing himself out of the 49ers business more than they don't want to bring him back. But if he's looking for like a 3-year market deal, then that means he's gone. I know that Robert Saleh has already said out loud on the record, I want Dre Greenlaw back. Everyone wants Dre Greenlaw back. Dre Greenlaw might not want to be back if he sees a bigger pile of money waiting for him somewhere else. And given the fact he just tore his Achilles, I wouldn't begrudge him for following the pile of money more than, I love these guys, want to play here. I get it. I totally do. That man saw the end of his career. He saw it. And luckily it didn't equal end of your career, but he was, when they're putting you under for that Achilles surgery, you got to be thinking, well, let's hope this goes well, because if it doesn't, I'm never playing another snap in this league. So I want both.
By the way, I want to have this conversation with you philosophically, because I think people too often blow past this idea, and you just hit on something that I think is really important. We all like to say what we would do, because with Greenlaw, it seems we were so close to something that's unfinished, right? That's what the fan wants to say. This is unfinished, and you've got to come back to do this because a championship should be the most important thing. In this league, more so than even any other of the professional leagues, in this league, the window being what it is, an NFL standing not for long, wouldn't you, if you were truly good enough to be in this league, wouldn't you be chasing a contract? The championship means a lot, but when you really think about it on your deathbed at the end, passing up a contract that you could have had somewhere, passing up your opportunity when you are a free agent, when you get this opportunity to do something special like that, I think that we should recognize that it is more of a debate than fans like to give it.
Well, there's something that is proof that winning a Super Bowl is fantastic. It's officially forever, but you know what's also forever? This mortgage payment until it's gone. And there are too many dudes who had middling careers that I've seen auction off their Super Bowl ring on eBay for me to think they wouldn't have, knowing what they know now, they wouldn't have chased the bigger dollar than the better opportunity. Now, the bigger dollar can follow the better opportunity. You know, winning and getting paid do go hand in hand, but not all the time. You know, there are
rare.
Every team has its role players, and the role players could be auctioning off their Super Bowl ring on eBay 6 years from now. And that's sad when that happens.
It's awful, and I just want to recognize we're saying the right thing about Greenlaw, that this is the opportunity, but I think you hit on something, and I just wanted to repeat it for everybody listening, that chasing the money, it actually should make more sense to those of us out there in the real world who don't make millions upon millions. It should make more sense to us than anyone else, because if someone came to me tomorrow and said the opportunity to make life-changing money has to happen in Carolina, and we know that that is not going to lead to a championship, and yet I could stay somewhere else that feels close, I think we all have to admit how difficult it really is to win a championship. The percentages are so stacked against you that it's tough. If you really think you've got 5 years to make incredible money, I think you got to make that incredible money.
All I know is that the same person who's going to tweet, "You sell out, you took the bag, you walked away from the opportunity," is the same person who's complaining about the price of eggs in their own life.
Exactly. And again, it's the definition of what opportunity is, because opportunity is championship, but opportunity is also life-changing, multi-million-dollar contract that you're going to come up with once if you're lucky in your life. Not everybody's Steph Curry signing multiple $200 million contracts. That's pretty rare.
Speaking of life-changing, go and have yourself a life-changing sandwich this afternoon. Go to Ike's for lunch. If there is one around you, go there. If there's one that delivers to you, order from there. If you don't live close to an Ike's, maybe it's time to reconsider everything, or hope that Ike will come to your town quickly and solve that problem for you. An incredible sandwich, an incredible business, an incredible guy, an incredible sponsor. Go and get a Damon Bruce if you like. That's a very nice entry point sandwich at Ike's, if you don't mind me saying. We'll treat you gently, not too spicy, not too rock and roll, just right. You're going to love it. Go ahead and get yourself to Ike's. And then if you happen to be in San Francisco, in West Portal especially, check out Dubliner West Portal. Dubliner West Portal, my kind of bar, my kind of people. Kenny and John, thank you so much for all the support. I'm going to come by and have a Guinness with you guys real soon. And this is where we're going to be going to watch Warriors playoff games. This is where we're going to be going to watch a sleepy Saturday afternoon baseball game because the Giants are down in L.A. and you want to see how bad the Dodgers are going to put it on them. You know you're going to need a drink for that game. Get yourself to the Dubliner West Portal. My guys. Love those guys. That guy right there, Sam Batesh, somebody earlier in the chat was like, man, these two guys got chemistry. Well, when you share a refrigerator, when you share whose Pepsi, whose Coke is this in the fridge?
Exactly.
This happens.
This is what happens. And by the way, we have shared so many. We've shared a cot in an edit bay, Damon. I mean, there have been many beautiful moments for you and I over the years. I mean, if you haven't lived until you've seen Damon eat that prosciutto cheese roll from Trader Joe's when he would,
I'm going to get skinny. This no more carbs for me, just cheese and prosciutto.
Before Atkins was just a noun that people throw around, Damon was at the forefront of that, and there was nothing more glorious than watching you charge through that special diet. And yes, that creates a bond that we will never forget.
And let's ask ourselves, did it work? How'd it go?
That's a beautiful, Damon. You're a beautiful man.
You're
a beautiful man.
Beautiful too. So look, it is great to have you here. We got some Niners that still to go over. Then we're going to fan ourselves out through the rest of these NFL headlines, and there's been a lot of them this week. First of all, the 49ers have officially launched their opening salvo in the Brock Purdy negotiation. Reportedly, they put a $45 million a year figure in front of them. So they put 45 in front of them, Sam, because they know Team Brock is going to come back with 55. And doesn't it feel like they're just setting this up to settle right in the middle at 50?
It absolutely does. And you and I have been saying this number for quite some time. And I want everyone to remember this. Don't slot Brock Purdy in based on what he gets paid right now and say he's not better than X player and Y player, because Patrick Mahomes does not make the most for any quarterback in this league. And that tells you that it is simply about one thing and one thing only. Are you getting your contract at the most recent time? That will make you the highest paid quarterback. Right. That's simply it. You're either above that line or below it. Brock Purdy is at that line. 2 NFC Championship appearances and a Super Bowl appearance. I don't care who you are. How do you say that's not worth the money? I'm sorry. You cannot. That is not steering a ship. That is not keeping something afloat. You are part of the solution and not the problem. If the team that you play the most important position for is in those games at the rate they have been since he was inserted by default, but inserted as the starter, I'm sorry. And ask Trey Lance if Brock Purdy looks like he's worth the money.
He walked off that Super Bowl field with a lead. He's not the reason why they lost it. Had he won that Super Bowl, the money would be already his.
He'd be Joe Flacco, right? He'd be Joe Flacco.
Hey, look, had Jim Harbaugh won his Super Bowl, he's still coaching the 49ers. Had Colin Kaepernick won that Super Bowl, he's probably still we've never even met Jimmy Garoppolo or Kyle Shanahan or any.
Or I would say, Kaepernick's I would say he's in the league. I'd certainly say he's in the league. Someone would always be saying that's the guy that won that Super Bowl for the Niners. Yes, you're absolutely right. And let Jalen Hurts be a lesson to everyone else, because I think Jalen and Brock are really in similar spots. Jalen Hurts was considered someone who was good enough on this particular team with the perfect scenario that maybe, but maybe the Eagles took a step back, and if they could get better play. And now Jalen Hurts is a Super Bowl MVP, and no one will question him for the rest of his career. And Brock Purdy is that close twice. Really, he's that close on 2 occasions to being the guy.
There's a contract that was just given that I think is a little bit of the template that the 49ers are going to use to get the Brock Purdy deal done. And that was the deal that Maxx Crosby just said yes to. Maxx Crosby just extended with the Raiders. He is now the highest paid non-quarterback in all of football. It's a 3-year, $106.5 million deal with $91.5 guaranteed. He's 27. He had 2 years remaining on a 4-year contract, so they extended him. Crosby did all the right, use the media like the useful idiots they are to get the "I am not happy here anymore" messages out without upsetting the fan base all at the same time. I've got standards. We either meet them or I'm gone. He played it really well for a guy who's got extensive tattoos above the neckline. Smart. He's smart. He's smart. You got a tattoo on your Adam's apple. I'm gonna demerit you right there. I really am. But no. Maxx Crosby's a smart guy, 4-time Pro Bowler, a premier game-wrecking talent in this league. They found him in the 4th round. He's he's a badass. Maxx Crosby is an A++ football player. There's no doubt about it. 3 years. $106.5 million for a player that if he is unavailable today, the line doesn't even move half a point. So will the Raiders turn around because Maxx Crosby is still there? I don't know. I think, maybe we'll see where that goes. But a $91 million guarantee, $106 million, 3 years. These numbers all sound a little Brockish. Obviously, the total would have to come up from the 106, but that guaranteed around $100 million, I think that's how you get. You're either going to give Brock a 5-year deal with an out after 3 or a 3-year deal with an awful lot of upfront.
And I want to talk about 2 people that are on the list when you talk about highest paid in the league. Forget about Crosby, because there's 2 lists I want to talk about. First, I want to talk about the list of non-quarterbacks that we just spoke about. And then I want to talk about the list of quarterbacks. But the 2 names I wanted to bring up quickly were Tua Tagovailoa and Trevor Lawrence, because those were the massive deals signed last offseason. And most people had no issue with either of those numbers. Miami had put up record-setting numbers offensively with Mike McDaniel 2 seasons ago.
Right.
And Trevor Lawrence,
about the Tua number was due to his noodle getting scrambled.
Right. And we will talk about that. And then Trevor Lawrence also was essentially coming up. We all remember the victory against the Chargers, the amazing comeback in the playoffs there, and then no one blames anyone for losing to the Chiefs in the playoffs. So Trevor Lawrence looks like the guy that's going to be the answer in Jacksonville as well. Think about those contracts now. Think about those 2 quarterbacks and ask yourself if you'd rather have either of those 2 or Brock Purdy leading the 49ers right now.
Brock.
I don't think it's even I just don't think it's a difficult. I would love to walk into a pop quiz and have that be the question.
I'm telling you, I've watched the 49ers play in Jacksonville. I've watched, direct snap, Brock's on the field, Trevor's on the field. Brock's on the field, Trevor's on. Don't tell me that one guy was the number 1 pick in the draft and the other guy was the last pick in the draft, and that's all you need to know, because they look like the same dude, if not this one dude is better than that dude, and
I reference it constantly. Put on the game tape for those of you that are lucky enough to have it somewhere in your DVR. I talked about the horrible things I still have on my DVR because I just can't get rid of them. I love watching the games from the past if they ended the way I want them to. But, and for Niner fans, they probably deleted this one because it did not end the way that they wanted. But I go back to the first game against the Rams this season, which was an awful come-from-ahead defeat. But Brock Purdy was playing without anyone of significance that you want to name on the Niners, and I understand we were all excited about Juwan Jennings starting the season, but no one essentially knew that he would be the player that he was. In that game, Juwan Jennings became that guy with 3 touchdowns. Brock Purdy played so well in a game without McCaffrey, Debo, and Kittle. I want you to go back and see what he did in building that lead against the Rams. Brock Purdy is not just helping this team and steering the ship and guiding it and keeping it on the tracks. He's got playmaking ability.
Yeah. Oh, look, Brock has got more impact with his legs than anyone wants to give him credit to. And he's a player. I mean, here's the thing. Is he perfect? Is he prototype? He'll never be either of those.
That's why, that's why he was picked where he was in the draft. You're right. There are certain things that when you measure a quarterback, Brock Purdy may not have it.
So the other day I was doing because Curry went off at MSG and
yes.
King of New York. And so I did a show about that. And someone's like, could you imagine if Curry was like 6'6", 6'7"? Hey, if Curry were 6'7", he's not a Golden State Warrior. No way. No way. It was Curry's imperfections that let him get to you in the first place. So be happy for them. And the same thing with Brock Purdy. And look, when it comes to extending Brock.
And his first contract, by the way, also, if you go back and look, his first contract, Steph, I believe they were so concerned with the ankle at that time. Steph, even though Steph does have 2 $200 million contracts, the first contract was not outrageous. That also helped build a dynasty.
4 years, $44 million.
I mean,
he won an MVP making $11 million a year.
Think about that considering what guys make in the NBA now.
Dude, it's one of the all-time greatest values ever in the history of sports. Dwight Gooden on his rookie deal with the Mets. Okay, that was a really good bargain. And it's one of those, what? Guy was paying, they paid $11 million to a guy who won the MVP and changed how basketball was played on every court.
I want in the comments right now, I want people to start throwing names of people in the NBA. I don't have it in front of me, and maybe we'll get it by the end of the show, but people who make $11 million in the NBA right now, I want you to start throwing some names on this chat because it's going to be laughable.
It's guys making $11 million a year are the eighth men.
There's probably assistant coaches in the NBA making that much money. It's really, I mean, the league does give money away like that. And so $11 million for Steph is hilarious. And another thing, another feather in Brock's cap, and I'll use Jalen again as an interesting example, Hurts and the Eagles who just won a Super Bowl. The idea that you can't go back with your quarterback makes money because everyone loves that, right? Okay, the Niners went there because Brock's not making money. Well, the Eagles 2 seasons ago went to the Super Bowl and lost with Jalen on a rookie deal and went back and won it with Jalen making $50 million. So
isn't he
there's a way.
The first $50 million quarterback to win it?
Yes, because technically Patrick's not at that threshold. Yes.
Right.
So that, and I think Burrow would have been had he won that one against Stafford.
A question from a guy who needs a better username.
Is moving.
Seriously, is this like Elon Musk's son? What kind of name? Anyways, it says, why haven't we seen a new Kittle contract dropped? That's a good question, and I'm going to come up with 2 things that I think that squeaky wheel gets the grease. He is not a squeaky wheel. And number 2, it should be the easiest thing the 49ers do this offseason, and it doesn't come with any element of urgency. Kittle says he wants to be a career 49er. This should be the easiest contract that they will ever extend. There is no negotiation. It's thank you, George. Whatever the highest paid tight end in the league is, you get $1 more. You're that guy. Now, you're such a great Niner. How much are you willing to not take all to yourself or restructure in a way where we can put the best team around you? And you know Kittle's going to want to play ball on that too. So I just think that they know he'll come in around the margins however we need him to. He's such a good soldier. Don't worry about Kittle. It's the easiest thing they'll do all offseason.
And what's nice is the Niners have last season to look at where Kittle was, again, he was game-wrecking Kittle.
He was
multiple games. He was awesome. I remember the Monday night game against the Lions where you and I couldn't believe that the Lions were playing everyone that they were, and that was a great game. And Kittle was exceptional there as well. Travis Kelce, and I know we'll get to this a little later, Damon, but look at last season for Kelce and look at last season for Kittle, and these 2 guys have been in the same sentence for a long time. Kelce and Kittle have been who's the best tight end in the league. It's been those names. And Kittle, that torch is clearly it's passed. I'm sorry, but the fact we were only talking about Kelce potentially retiring because of how poor he played in that Super Bowl in particular. That said it all. And Kittle clearly still has that gear that we both agree, I'm sure, Kelce no longer does.
We'll talk about him coming back for one more dance in just a second. But real quick, it's J&S Moving. Sorry about the name.
There we go. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and hey, let's plug that business.
Yes, let's do it.
If you are moving, are you really moving if you're not J&S Moving? I mean, just be honest. Or are you just running in place?
This is J&S for Junior and Sam Moving. This is the only company that I use is J&S Moving. And yes, and if you need to, when you do grab the bag and you move for the next big contract, J&S Moving is who Greenlaw will be calling.
That's it. Oh no, he won't move any Niner out of the Bay Area. That's how loyal he is. By the way, I mean, I did so well with it the first time around. I almost
give it another shot
back for a second.
Haruku, you nailed
it. Thank you, Steph Curry's trick ankle. Yeah, indeed. By the way, ask and ye shall receive. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's get some names here.
First of all, Smiley Dan's a name that you need. Smiley Dan, awesome. Make sure you're following. Thinking Smiley Dan is one of the best dudes you will ever meet in your life, Sammy.
I can't wait.
You will bump into him at the Dubliner getting a Guinness. He'll talk to you about sports, fish shows, Grateful Dead, our kind of guy.
I can't wait, Smiley Dan.
Smiley Dan, Dante DiVincenzo, 11.4. Must be trouble, says Moses Moody's going to make about 11 million next year. Smiley Dan coming back in. Terrence Mann getting you 11.4. There you go. Just our man Otis saying, hey, what's going on? Otis. Hey, Sammy. Otis. If we have to write a history of Bay Area sports talk radio, Otis Bird III should write the foreword. He knows more about Bay Area sports talk radio. For a man who's never worked in the industry, he could write a book about it, Sammy. You know what the shame
of it is that Otis never had an internship at KMB are with us. I mean, really, for people, I always say this, for people that are truly so in love with the station, with the personalities that really understand what's going on, I always wish that Otis could find himself a way to actually get in behind the scenes, because just think about what that is from a camaraderie standpoint for everybody there. Also, you've got someone there that is so in love with the product to begin with. Who's going to work harder? Who is going to bust his ass harder than Otis? I always thought that was such a missed opportunity that we didn't find a way to get more people like that there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just don't take the kids who's coming in here for college credit. Who's got a hard on for radio?
Yes.
Let's go with that person. All right. Anyway, the answer right now, by the way, who's got a hard on for radio? Nobody. Anyways, Smiley Dan, Matisse Thybul, 11 mil. Maxi Kleber, 11 mil.
There's not a better there's just there. You're right. In the history of this modern league, there is not a greater contract. We should go back and look. In fact, what we should really do is we should go back and look at the last 10 MVPs in this league and what the price tag is. Because the fact that he won one of those MVPs on that contract will go down in history for sure.
One of the all-time contractual sports values ever. I mean, it was, for a minute there, it was Kurt Warner, what the Rams were paying him to win the Super Bowl and the greatest show on turf. That was a deal, to say the least.
And by the way, I was going to say, in regards to just back to the Greenlaw thing real quick. Yes, it is perfect when you can win the Super Bowl and then get the contract. That's such a rare opportunity. And I'll point to a guy who just did do that, though. Zach Bond, who was up for Defensive Player of the Year, comes over as just sort of a special teamer. Maybe we'll fit him somewhere. Maybe the Eagles will fit him somewhere in the defense. And he makes such a difference for that team. And the Eagles do reward him with the 3-year contract. And there's the guy who I'm sure never thought he'd be grabbing the bag and then gets to stay where he just won a Super Bowl and get that bag. So that's the true happy ending. It doesn't happen for everybody, but it did happen this past season.
I like when there's happy endings for more than just Robert Kraft in this league. I really do. Sorry, you can't put it on T for me. And by the way, JS Moving says, love you guys. Discounts for all 49ers fans, always.
Great. There you go.
He won't help a 49er fan leave the Bay, but to come to the Bay, he'll help you get here.
Yes.
Speaking of which, I saw a little story. Again, I don't know how much stock I'm going to put into this one, but Debo is already referring to his departure as a little bittersweet. Maybe there are some regrets there. Maybe he wishes it didn't go down the way it did. I don't know. Maybe he's already, doing some home pricing in Northern Virginia and finding out, this is like Silicon Valley fucking prices too over here, man. Wait a minute. We're doing this tax free over here too. So like 11%. And I'm going to complain about 13%. Anyway, so maybe I'm surprised, Sammy, that they weren't able to put it back together. Like, I really was. As much as Shanahan and Debo liked each other, as much as I really think that he, for them, provides a value that other teams will have trouble extracting, even the Niners had trouble extracting his value, I am really surprised that they weren't able to get one more walk year out of Debo Samuel. I'm kind of stunned by it. I really, really am. And since I'm going to put that on the table for you, it's also, look, if the 49ers really want to play hardball here, why not have Brock Purdy play on his last contract if money's really tight and then franchise him once if you have to? Now, franchise means that's a lot of money that year. But if you are wondering,
but it's for 1 year. It's only for 1 year.
Guy, we still aren't sure. We don't want to go ahead. Like, there are ways to dance around, and it's a way that players normally do not like. Player agents don't like, but there are ways to dance around the very issue that the 49ers say that they're having right now.
Debo missed too many games the last 2 seasons, and that's just, I'm sorry, you just have to say it. For what Debo can do, for what Shanahan can do when Debo is in there, what he can do, what Debo opens up for other people on the field, there is an entire playbook. Debo on the field, Debo off the field. When you have somebody like Kyle who is so much smarter than the average offensive coordinator in this league, and what he can do with a player who is versatile like Debo, it is amazing when he's there, but it also hurts so much when he's not because of what it does to the entire offense to not have him on the field for those gadget plays, etc. Debo's a wrecker. Last night on NFL Network, they've been showing sort of, the free agents and players moving on and best games and whatnot. And of course,
look, when you show the Debo highlight reel,
oh my God.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
It is so to do it. To do it at two positions, it's not Shohei Ohtani. He's not playing offense and defense. But to really, truly have an impact at two positions, and the only other guy in the league you can even say comes close, Cordarrelle Patterson is really the only other guy you can even sniff at this.
Right. And he was ish compared to Debo.
Exactly. Debo's doing it at an elite level, both spots, running the ball
not really running
or catching
anymore.
the ball.
That's the thing. This year, attaching the word elite to describe the production fell off. And that's why this thing fell apart.
And the Ayuk contract, Damon. The Ayuk thing, right? You just shelled it out you just went through this last offseason. You committed to that position. It was going to be tough to do it again. I know we'll get to it. The Bengals obviously are doing that, but it can be tough. Again, though, look at it. Did Juwan do enough? Did they see enough in Ricky Pearsall that this made it a little easier to stomach? And of course, knowing that Brock's about to make 50, it probably just had to happen.
It's funny too, because Kawakami wrote that Tariq Owens, who was T.O.'s kid and was on the 49ers practice squad, might be a direction that they turn to. And look, now a lot of people start rolling their eyes when you're like, oh, you're going to try to replace Debo with a kid who's never played an NFL snap. No. I want to see it.
Organizations are smarter than the fan base. The front office is smarter than the fan base, and here's why. Nostalgia does not last long in a front office. You have to be willing to make the difficult decision. Look, the Eagles just shelled out a ton of money to Saquon and Zach Bond, who I just mentioned, and I'm sure there'll be a few others, but you have to at times. And we'll see if that comes back to bite him, right? Usually teams are pretty nimble in this league, and if you show a sign of not being quite at that level, that's an opportunity to move on. And I'm sorry, but Debo's you're probably right. There's just elite was not the word last season.
No, but it certainly was for Saquon, who, if we're just, hey, litmus test, what's one of the best seasons you ever saw one dude ever have? Saquon Barkley is in this conversation for me for like the rest of my life. Like, I'll tell my grandkids about the year that Saquon showed up in Philadelphia. Like, he was amazing this year. And I've always been a little bit of a running back whore. I love running backs. So, by
the way, about Saquon, I have two definitive statements to make. One of them is a little controversial. The other, I think we can wrap our head around. It's the greatest season any running back has ever had in the history of the game.
Who's going to argue? Okay, at the very worst, you could find something as good.
Terrell Davis, 98 is right.
Terrell Sanders' year ever, which obviously didn't come with the Lombardi Trophy.
Exactly. I think to have this list, I think you got to. Considering they did win the Super Bowl, I think that has to be part of it. And when you look at players who had the kind of season he did, and it doesn't have to be 2,000 yards. I'm just saying, when you look at a running back season that's, let's even say, top 5, that also results in a Super Bowl championship, and considering it's a brand new team, he's number one. The other statement I want to say is, and this is certainly controversial for anyone who's an Eagles fan, but the greatest Eagle of all time, do you know who it is?
Reggie White.
I'm going to say it's Saquon Barkley.
All time already?
Yes. He did it in one season. He's the franchise leader in yards for a season. He's got the most yards rushing in the league when you include playoff games. He won a Super Bowl in his first season here. He's an MVP finalist. He's the offensive player of the year. He shattered every Eagles rushing record there's ever been. He's got the most yards in one game. He's got the most yards in one season. He's got the most 60-yard touchdowns in the league in a year. He single-handedly beat the Rams in the divisional game. What more can you say about Saquon Barkley? And again, if you look at the list of all-time great Eagles, of course, how many of them actually won a Super Bowl as well? That's a much shorter list. And Reggie White won a Super Bowl with the Packers.
Right.
Didn't with the Eagles. For everything Saquon did with the Giants, that list is actually pretty short when you look at it. everything that you're going to lead Saquon Barkley's resume with the rest of his career, other than Rookie of the Year, is going to be this and what he did in this. I think if he left the game tomorrow, he's the greatest Eagle of all time.
Wow. Look, I mean, it's hard to argue. It's hard to argue based on what he did one year that was so elite and so spectacular. Look, I've argued that one of the greatest trades I've ever seen with my own two eyes was when the 49ers brought in Christian McCaffrey. And McCaffrey had such a year that I said, it's the hardest top 10 to crack in football, especially when you don't have a Lombardi trophy. But right now, Christian McCaffrey is one of the 10 greatest 49ers
yes.
ever, based on the year that he had.
Yes, he is. And again, obviously he'd done so much in Carolina, but look at what happened when a player like McCaffrey, when a player like Derrick Henry, when a player like Saquon Barkley joins a team with an elite offensive line, with an elite scheme. Look at what happens. It's almost unfair to think about the seasons they spent somewhere else.
Big Dom is the greatest Eagle of all time.
Okay, and I'll take that. You know what? He knows where the bodies are buried for all the seasons, truly, yes.
By the way, Christopher Byers here says, does Damon still have the super chat ganja jar?
Oh, yes.
The problem today is we don't have the super chats.
Let's go.
But the JJ Raider Memorial Ganja Jar is always here and always looking to be filled up with
awesome.
Your supers. And thank you very, very much. JJ Raider, by the way, was in. I saw him earlier. We have had other Joe Sullivan, other Chef A, others have absolutely helped fill up the Ganja Jar, but it started with JJ.
That is beautiful. And that is beautiful. And it's right there. And it's readily accessible.
Top shelf so the kids can't reach it. But thank you for asking. I'm glad to share that with you. Saquon, first running back ever to push through the 20 million threshold. He's got a 2-year extension worth 41.2. He is now the highest paid running back in NFL history. Howie Roseman is now, I think, a Hall of Fame front office executive. And when we talk about the great deals that Howie Roseman ever made, you start the list with Saquon.
Yes.
I mean, he was awesome this year. He was awesome. And the guy he's got all sorts of good vibes coming off of him too. Like I've never seen Saquon Barkley say or do the wrong thing, not once, publicly, privately, about his team, about teammates, about himself. He's never embarrassed his family. The guy's like, there aren't a lot of running backs you're going to want to give 41.22, but after his year, that's the guy.
He opts out of a Week 18 shot at history to better himself for a playoff run that results in a Super Bowl championship, not to mention rushing for nearly more than anyone ever has in a postseason run on the way to doing it. It just keeps stacking up. Yes, with Saquon. Now, I will also say that position is a tricky one. Giving that much money to that position, we will see. Is the league truly does this? It doesn't have to change the face of the league, but people are going to think about that position differently because of Derrick Henry to an extent. And of course, now Saquon Barkley, who had 3 extra weeks of looking at what he had to do.
Damon looks like he could have been your camp counselor, but the cool one with the weed and the guy got into the Grateful Dead. With the
JJ jar. By the way, that Phantom Sniper is a legendary person for you and I. Not only does he love what we do together, he is also, I may have to admit it, he is definitely related to me and also spent time with you and I, Damon, in San Francisco. He made ridiculous pineapple drinks in our apartment. He went to Blowfish Sushi with us many times. Yes, exactly.
Oh
yes.
My God, I do remember. That was
Cousin Jack.
Nothing but hot waitresses and good sushi.
Come on, great sushi. The pyramid of tartare was the one that's what we always had there, stacked up with tuna and ahi. Yeah, that was great.
By the way, Chef A, who's been a member. I mean, here's the thing: you don't have to be a super chatter if you're a member. Chef A, here is my donation. Can't be there to give it. Chef A, you're spoken for. You've given it the office. Yes. Thank you so very much. Postman in Capitola, who drops the as always. Thank you very, very much, Postman. Great to see you. always. Yeah, good times all around. Thank you very much. Just bringing up the ganja jar makes people want to stuff it. So I really do appreciate
I love
it.
that. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's going to be different. I think the draft is also going to tell us how people feel about running backs, because there could be a great run of backs even in the first round this season. And I just think the league, I don't think the league necessarily is changing, but look at running back played a factor in this season. When you look at the 2024 season, running back was a major role this season.
I think it's the ultimate sprinkles on top position. Get your football team right. Get your offensive line right. Get your defensive line right. Have complementary wide receivers. Have a coach and quarterback and know what they're doing. And right when you think, what's going to take us from a 10-11 win team to a real playoff contender, sprinkle on top veteran running back who knows what he's doing.
Worked out pretty well. Worked out pretty damn well, and it's a hell of a reward. And
by the way, somewhere Ricky Waters is saying, I needed the ball 35 more times to be effective, Andy Reid. I could have been saying Barkley, Andy Reid. I need the ball 45 times to be effective.
Not Ricky, not quite on the list of all-time great Eagles. Although all-time Eagles, yes, just not necessarily all-time greatest of all time. Probably not. But
I had a buddy of mine in college who used to walk around with a Ricky Waters jersey going, I needed 64 touches. That's it.
I loved Ricky. I did. I loved Ricky. Not many guys like Ricky. Yeah, Niners, Seahawks, and Eagles, right? For Ricky, yeah.
That's not a lot. Not a lot of guys wore all three helmets. That's for sure. Let's see. In a very busy NFL week, what has also happened? Travis Kelce has said he's coming back. I saw this guy on Twitter who started a video with a disclaimer saying, I'm the biggest Travis Kelce fan there ever is or ever was. But let's just go over the Super Bowl footage to talk about how much this guy doesn't want to play football anymore. And he showed a level of off-the-line burst, of jogging through formations in a Super Bowl, Sam, that was concerning. And he's like, look, I'll lay down on train tracks for this guy, but it's officially time to hang him up. And I watched that to the point where I was like, yeah, it is walk away time for Travis Kelce, but he says it's not. He's coming back for one more shot. This has don't want to go out like that more than it has I'm back for more written all over it. He even said as much, saying that the Lombardi Trophy was the biggest factor in him wanting to play one more year, which means he was out the door with a win. And what I can't believe is that this guy, look, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, the greatest receiving tight end of all time. I don't know if he's the most complete tight end of all time. That could be Kittle. But the most dangerous receiving tight end of all time, his playoff numbers are tantamount to Jerry Rice production in the postseason. That is not an exaggeration. He is one of the all-time big game performers we have ever seen. What I can't believe, though, Sammy, is that he is coming back, because that next life should be calling to him like the animated aroma coming off of a pie cooling on a windowsill. All you got to do now is be Taylor Swift's boyfriend or husband or whatever. Easy. Do you want to wear Versace and have nothing but private planes and 3-star Michelin restaurants forever?
I have no idea how much his brother would have influenced this decision, but Jason Kelce lost. So Jason Kelce obviously years ago won a Super Bowl 2017 season, lost a Super Bowl 2022 season in a season where everyone assumed it was his farewell. The Eagles lose that Super Bowl and he comes back for a we can go get it. And it ends up being a season that ends really with a bad taste in his mouth, even more so. And Kelce walks away after that. I thought Travis might have seen that as an opportunity to do it the other way, to realize that, okay, it doesn't always necessarily get better the next season. Also, I don't understand. The Lombardi Trophy is calling him. He's won the Lombardi Trophy many times. What else is there? I mean, the history was there. The three-peat was there. Him winning another. What does Travis Kelce need to win? I mean, I guess as in the movie Wall Street 2, what is your number? My number is more. I get it. I mean, I get that it's always more. Yes, you want to win another championship, but this is not a guy who's been close multiple times and I just didn't quite get it. I got to get it. I am a little surprised, but because there were flashes in the playoffs this year, not the Super Bowl, because we could show footage of the AFC Championship game and the divisional round against the Ravens, where Travis Kelce is that guy for Mahomes when it matters most. And for Patrick, I'm sure he knows Travis has been his guy in those spots. But if you really go back and look at the Super Bowl, the reaction shots of Kelce on the sideline, he is wearing it more than anyone else in regards to, wow, this isn't going our way.
Hey, the Kelces love football. That's obvious. That's they're by the way, they have been overserved and overproduced, and we don't need any more podcasts. We don't need to know anything more about another Kelce family member. We're good. We got all the Kelces we need.
We are, and even I will admit that. And I love Jason's Friday Night Show on ESPN because there's just not enough Philadelphia only shows out there. But I'm a little surprised. And you're right. I was going to say it. I'm glad you did before I did. But yes, Taylor Swift is waiting, and that could happen. I also want to say one other thing.
Wait, I just think, I guarantee you that during the middle of next season, Travis Kelce regrets coming back more than he enjoys it.
Okay, that's a good definitive statement. I'm going to leave it alone. Give a little space around that. That for a team like the Chiefs that keeps coming back for more and ends up in the AFC Championship every single season, that's a pretty shocking statement. But based on the way this one ended, maybe it's not so shocking. I also just want to say, for those out there hating on Travis Kelce for being with Taylor Swift, can we just all be honest with ourselves? Of all the accomplishments that Travis Kelce has made on the football field, bagging Taylor Swift is fucking spectacular. I mean, I will look up to Travis Kelce for a lot in my life. There's a lot of things that Travis Kelce did that I didn't ever do. But I'm going to say that one is incredible. And now we've seen it so many times, it makes sense. Oh, yeah, okay, Taylor Swift's boyfriend is Travis Kelce. But I don't know that before it happened, I would have had Travis Kelce on the list of people that she was going to end up with and likely marry. Right. I'm sorry. That's bravo. I just want to say bravo, Travis Kelce, because now we say it like, oh, of course, it's Travis Kelce. He's the greatest tight end. Okay, but I'm sorry. Travis Kelce ended up in a room at an event with Taylor Swift and made it happen. I'm sorry.
More game than Milton Bradley.
Yes, I am sorry, but that is well done. And I just don't give me the hate on the Chiefs because he's with Taylor Swift. She's the most popular person on the planet. She happens to be, yes, no one's afraid of showing up at a party with her on your arm. She's doing all right in the looks department.
She sure seems very pretty and very nice and doesn't walk around with the ego of, a woman whose ego shouldn't be able to even fit inside the stadium that she sold out for 4 nights in a row.
She shows up at his games. By the way, hey, hun, can you make the game tonight? Oh, sorry, I'm in Germany at a show. But no, she shows up at the games. She's friends with the quarterback's wife. I mean, she's friends with his mom at this point. I mean, what is she not doing, by the way, as a girlfriend? She's also been pretty great in that regard also. I have no hate for this whatsoever.
What's odd, though, is how much his taste in women changed. Travis Kelce was a darker the berry, sweeter the juice guy right up until Taylor Swift. I mean, he was dating him right off the pole with big Brazilian butt lifts and all sorts of hourglass figures. And, like the best way to describe the name of all of his girlfriends before Taylor Swift, if they had all to be named one thing, their names would be, hey, girl. That's every girl that he dated right until Taylor Swift.
Bravo, Travis Kelce. It's great. Bravo on all of it. That tells me his game off the field is at a level that none of us can comprehend. Maybe you think you could
Joe Maggio, Marilyn Monroe.
Right. Maybe you think you could catch the 4th and 2 from Mahomes right over the middle. Maybe right on the little leak out route. Maybe you could run that play maybe once, right? With a helmet on, you could run the 2-yard play that Patrick just needs to dump it off quickly for the first down. One thing you couldn't do, you did not show up at a party and leave with Taylor Swift.
No, you didn't.
I'm sorry. Bravo.
Impressive. Let's see. The Titans want to deal the number 1 overall. At least they say, Ali Oxenfree, anybody interested, come and get it. The Giants are sitting there at 3. The Jets are at 6, 2 teams that are desperate. If the Raiders really want to start playing poker, maybe they'll be interested. But let me ask you this, Sam. Instead of asking about the Titans or who the number 1 overall should be or why it's undefined to Cam and blah, 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 and, Shador, let me just ask you this. Is the fact that Tom Brady isn't interested in getting into the first off the board quarterback conversation a red flag for everyone who wants to do that? Look, Brady is not a talent evaluator, but who had more talent at the position than he did and knows as much about it as he does. He is very now involved with the Raiders' decision-making. I would say the fact that Tom isn't curious about Cam Ward or Shador Sanders should be a message to other teams in football saying that maybe we don't want to break our backs to get these guys. If they show up at our doorstep, that's a different story. Although, how much do we want to trade up for them?
Well, considering where Brady was drafted, with the famous picture of the 199 on the draft card, considering where Brady was drafted, maybe he thinks there are ways to find your quarterback that other people may not be sniffing up that tree for. So maybe he thinks that. And number 2, I'll simply say Michael Jordan, Kwame Brown. So sometimes the greatest of all time is holding people to such a standard that it is impossible. Because remember, it's not just that Kwame Brown wasn't necessarily the player that Washington wanted him to be at the time they drafted him. The stories are that Jordan would show up and so destroy Kwame Brown's spirit by holding him to a standard that only he could get to, that Kwame Brown was never the same after that experience. And perhaps Brady is looking at Cam and Shador and simply saying, I don't see Tom Brady in there. Right. And Tom Brady,
players never make great coaches, by the way.
It's difficult. It's tough to see it. And even unlike Jordan, Brady also knows that everyone didn't see it in him. And so maybe he's saying the guys that everyone's talking about is not necessarily the way to build in this league. And remember that even Patrick Mahomes has a Mitch Trubisky story on it. So it's just there, it's not always so obvious, and what everybody else is saying doesn't necessarily make sense. And maybe, just maybe, Brady wants to win right now, and he just doesn't see Jaden Daniels in either of those two guys. And he's saying, all right, with Max making this money right now, our opportunity is to get a quarterback in here who can absolutely take us to the playoffs today.
Do you realize?
Pay me more today.
3 years in a row, the Raiders have waved goodbye to their week 1 starting quarterback in the offseason.
That's rough. Say that again. Wait, say that again.
Third year in a row that the week 1 quarterback is said goodbye to in the offseason. And
that's not your opening day starter in baseball, by the way. That's pretty massive. And by the way, that's also probably a short list. It's probably also a short list of teams in the Major League Baseball who've done that, but there's more than that. 3 starting quarterbacks week 1 goodbye. That's a tough run.
Yeah. It was Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, and Derek Carr.
Ouch. That's rough.
And look, this is hardly a ringing endorsement for Gardner Minshew either. The first guy Tom Brady cuts is Gardner Minshew. That's like, and you don't have a quarterback. Now, is Gardner Minshew the guy you want for the job? No. But can he get the job done in the meantime where you've identified no one in the succession line of who's going to be your quarterback? The fact that they're willing to say goodbye to him, not even keeping him around to be a camp arm, is not good. Good.
So 2 things about the Titans and then about the Raiders here.
By the way, Smiley Dan, real quick, saying, hold on, wait. Sorry, Otis. Giants left field opening day streak on line 1.
That's great. So it is. Okay. But like I said, not starting pitcher, not opening day starter, but still left field, yes. And there are those moments where it happens, but at quarterback, you can't let it be 4 seasons. You cannot let it be 4 seasons of this for the Raiders. For what they are banking on with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly there, you cannot whiff here at quarterback. Don't waste Chip Kelly's time now with someone who can't get that done. I will say for the Raiders, the guy I'm circling right now is Geno Smith. The guy I'm circling for the Raiders is Geno, with the Pete Carroll connection right there, with the idea that he right now is having interesting conversations with the Seahawks about that, with DK obviously unhappy with what's happening there, with Geno being the 4th leading passer in the league this season. 4th. Geno Smith passed for the 4th most yardage of any quarterback in the league this past season. Geno Smith can make the Raiders a playoff team. You put that money down for Maxx Crosby because you think there's a window. Your window is Maxx Crosby as far as I'm concerned. And if you want to do that, you want to get a quarterback in there who can absolutely over the next 2 seasons get you there. Geno Smith can put you in position to win in this league. There may be another weapon around him, but Geno Smith can win. I think that's a guy to look at. And in regards to what the Titans are doing, I don't understand why we know that they're so open to getting rid of this pick. I think the better tactic here would have been to convince everyone in the world that they're in love with either Shador or Cam.
Right?
I don't understand that. Why not convince everyone that you are so locked in on one of these guys that now people are begging you to get the number 1 pick to get one of those guys? Because the smokescreen is that they're really thinking a lot about other things, and maybe it's Abdul Carter, and maybe we like Levis. That seems like completely the wrong mentality to have. Everyone in Tennessee should be thinking Cam Ward's our guy. And now the Raiders are thinking, well, if Tennessee loves him, maybe we should take another look. And our only shot at getting him is going to be to go and grab that from Tennessee. And maybe we make a ridiculous RG3 deal where we're giving away multiple first-round draft picks to go get him.
Yeah, it does seem odd that they would almost devalue the value of the commodity that they've got. Yeah, it is a little weird. I mean, you bet. And here's the thing: not everything has to go public. There are back channels exist in every single.
And here's your example. You're making an excellent point. What's the most exciting trade we've seen, certainly in 2025? This is an easy answer, but Luka and AD. Read the article by ESPN on how that deal got done.
Right.
The secrecy that was involved in making the greatest, I will say, the most high-profile trade we've ever seen in the NBA happened 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Luka and AD is the most high-profile player-for-player trade in the NBA, and it happened because everyone shut the fuck up. That was it. That made the deal happen.
Keep your own counsel. You don't need to let everybody know what you're doing all the time. I know we live in a world of attention. You learn
the 2 greatest rules in life. Never rat on your friends and always keep your mouth shut.
Absolutely. Second De Niro quote
of the show.
If you don't mind me saying. Second De Niro mob-related quote of the live stream. We'll wrap up with bad teams never get out of their own way. And maybe you could say that this is in play with the fact that 3 years in a row of quarterback indecision defines the Raiders as much as anything. So for the second straight year, the Bengals are franchising Tee Higgins, who we all agree, very good player, very good. $26.2 million is guaranteed to him. Now they're still saying that they're going to work on an extension, but we all know it's the cheap ass Cincinnati Bengals and Mike Brown, and they won't reach an agreement. This is the second time he's been tagged, which means, he's getting paid handsomely. $26.2 million is a great dollar amount to complain about if you want to complain about being franchise tagged. But this is just so Bengals, if you ask me, because it's his 5th year with the franchise. If you're 5 years into a relationship and you honestly are thinking to yourself, well, we still need to date a few more years before I can settle down and give her the long-term ring, that means you're not really serious after all. Like, the fact that you don't want to be in a relationship that you've been in for 5 years, but you don't have the balls to either put the ring on the finger or just break up, that is so Cincinnati. Like, who knows more about Tee Higgins than the Bengals? And apparently, they still haven't made up their mind. That is front office negligence 101.
Or does it mean they're married to Jamar Chase already and they don't need a second wife? I will give the Bengals credit for one thing. Damon, what you said is right. This is an organization that is known for not paying for talent. Just look at the history of the league and look at the amount of contracts that the Bengals do not sign. And yet, if you check the ink in this league right now and you look at top paid players at important positions, Joe Burrow's getting paid and Jamar Chase is getting paid. And for this season, Tee Higgins is going to get paid a lot of money. Now, Joe Mixon is out the door, and that probably factors into this a little bit also. Joe Mixon, if you look at what happened last season, number one passer in the league, Joe Burrow, number one receiver in the league, Jamar Chase, most sacks belong to the Bengals and Hendricks. So that's tough to not make the playoffs when you're leading in those three categories. Tells me that they are fearful because maybe Mixon was the difference. Chase Brown had a nice season, yes, but Joe Mixon was a difference maker in Houston and could have been for Cincinnati. There's probably a little bit of that on them. They want to hold on to T, and I think they might be smart here. It might just be we cannot commit those dollars 3 times. We're doing it with Jamar, we're doing it with Joe, and just maybe. And then is there any part of us that thinks Tee Higgins isn't the same guy without Jamar Chase there? I mean, Tee Higgins, good for him if he goes to a team and is truly number one. And by the way, if you look at the teams,
he's benefiting from gravity for sure.
I'm sorry, but the guy on the other side is pretty ridiculous.
Right. It's a human double team. You got to put 2 guys on, you have to.
And this is, I think Cincinnati is maybe that front office is figuring something out. Because as you said earlier, using the franchise tag and using it well can help you a lot in this league. And the player may not like it, but again, he's getting paid. He's getting paid for that season. And Tee Higgins is in a pretty good, Tee Higgins also probably slept on it. And look in this league what teams are open at WR1. What teams have wide receiver 1 as a question mark? Because those teams
49ers
right now, you're right. You're right. Tee Higgins would have made a lot of sense. After the Niners, though, that's a lot of teams that Tee Higgins is probably not that interested in playing for. You want to go be Jacksonville's number 1 wide receiver? Okay, go for it.
Right. You want to be Christian Kirk 2.0, who, by the way, is available now?
Yeah, he is. Exactly. I think Tee Higgins knows enough to, by the way, know what ugly looks like in Cincinnati, because it can look ugly there. We know that. Plenty of years where that was the case. I think Tee Higgins knows he's got a pretty great quarterback and a pretty good Batman to his Robin. Batman to his Robin.
I want to wrap up with this, Sammy, because we met in radio. You spent a long time working in radio. You've been behind the scenes on high-profile television shows, and you have done more TV than I have for sure. An end of an era at ESPN with Around the Horn wrapping up. I got to be honest, that show never really did it for me. The whole scoring system was, arbitrary, and I didn't find it cute or that funny. The guy who I thought was best on it turned out to be one of the worst people, Jay Mariotti, right? Like Mariotti was really good on that show, and then he got canceled. I never was a Woody Page guy. I like Courtney Cronin because she went to Indiana, and she did bring up a really good fact the other day. They were talking about the end of the show on Around the Horn, and she's like, hey, this is the last show on ESPN where there's people actually in locker rooms talking to the people that you're asking me about. So there is an element of the actual beat writer that will be impossible to find now on ESPN. Everybody's like Tony Reale. It's a hell of a run, 31 years. Now, there was a stretch where, Sam, I didn't miss a PTI for over a decade. And then, because of that, Around the Horn would either be in front of it or after it, and I would catch it, but never really cared about it very much. And maybe I'm part of the reason why these shows don't exist anymore, because I'm not watching ESPN like I used to. But, as somebody who knows how hard it is to do a show for a year, much less 31 years, a salute Around the Horn.
Considering that show was really a gimmick, as you said, the scoring system, the sound effects, the idea that even someone was playing moderator in that way, it felt gimmicky to start. It felt like the kind of show that would have a short run because they needed to simplify the format. That's when it first started. That's what it felt like to me. They probably got something here. They're going to figure out some chemistry with a few people. There will be a spinoff from this show, but it will not look like it does day one. I give credit to that more than anything because that is a difficult show to produce. I will say, pre-COVID, that's a show that figured that out pretty well. And being able to get people in separate locations to do an entertaining show, credit to them for that. And that, by the way, is not easy to do at all. To fake that chemistry with people that are not in the same room, that is difficult. And I know now we all look at TV and say, oh yeah, those people are somewhere else. No, before COVID, think about it. That wasn't the way that everybody thought. People used to have to be in the same room.
Right. It wasn't just heads in boxes.
Exactly. That show was heads in boxes before everybody, including you and I, were heads in boxes. But that it is true. Brady Bunch format for a sports show did not happen. Credit to ESPN. The Reporters was the original, right? The Reporters was yes.
It was my favorite show in the history of the network.
So Sports Reporters, in regard to what you just said that Courtney had mentioned about people that are actually in the trenches getting information and then bringing it back to us in an entertaining way. So that tip of the cap was the Sports Reporters and a good show. But look at how much more interesting visually Around the Horn was. Really a tip of the cap to that. And even the list of names that you were running through of people that you even didn't like anymore that were on the show, but discovering new talent, the show was a tremendous platform for that. So many names in sports now could roll on there. It was the perfect place to get your feet wet, to be a contributor in that show and really find out if you had the chops to go toe-to-toe, to be on TV. Did you really need to be on TV every day? If you could handle it on that show, you could handle it elsewhere. It was great for that. And credit to them for sticking around. And by the way, yes, PTI played a role in that. I would, of course, for what you just said. But you had already given, I understand exactly the plight you are talking about because most of us have this. I have a certain amount of bandwidth in my day to consume content in that form. And if you've given it to PTI, the idea that you've then got the time to also give it to Around the Horn, that's not going to be everybody. It's just not. But credit to them.
Yeah. Salute. I appreciate the run. I really do. Bang, bang from Memphis, and welcome to Placerville, Sammy. Drop this into the ganja jar. Thank you very much, Barry. We will put that in there. And what I would love for you to do, Barry, is go over to Thinking Out Loud with Siciliano and Sam and like and subscribe over there. Everyone, please like and subscribe over here. Sammy, I know you got to get running here. You said that you had a cutoff time. We're going to go hard cutoff here. Do you have time for a little today in history, though?
I would not be here unless you were giving me that. I use this day in history outside of the show more than almost anything else that we discuss. I love it. So please give it to me.
Happy birthday, Shaquille O'Neal, born today in 1972. He's only 53 years old. We're the same age as Shaq. That's really weird. Wow. Has there been a didn't see it coming transition from legit Hall of Fame player to marble-mouthed broadcaster? I don't know why it worked. I don't know why I'm frozen right now on the screen, but I'm frozen.
It is. All right. You can click out for a second. You do a little on-off on the cam, and I bet you'll come right back. But I wanted to say one thing. No, but yeah, you're coming back. You're coming back to me. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I hear you beautifully. You don't see me anymore, though. Hold on. Yeah, true. But that's all right. But you're going to come right back. I miss your beautiful mug. I was going to say one thing about Shaq, by the way, on this one, Damon.
Yeah.
Shaq, when he joined inside the NBA, and I'm sure a lot of people now are going to pretend that they always loved Shaq on that show. I remember thinking to myself how unnecessary it felt to have Shaq on that show because of the gorgeous chemistry that existed between and Charles and Ernie in that way. It just felt like, does this show need another voice? And we can all admit, Shaq's not an oh, by the way on that show. Shaq's going to have a presence on that show. And when it first started, I thought a little too many people at the desk, maybe. Mm-hmm. Kind of felt like a CNN, election year table with 12 people. It felt like maybe this is too much. And now I have to say it. Can you imagine that show without him? The NBA is a better place to have Shaq still a part of the league without having to be on the court. The league is a better place because we still get to enjoy Shaq on really Tuesdays and Thursdays because he's a part of both. I love that Shaq is a part of All-Star Weekend. I love that Shaq is a part of marquee nights in this league. Thank you, Shaq, for everything you've done. And has there been a more likable person, even though there was obviously the spat with Kobe, which is an ugly mark on him now, but
Right.
But Shaq is a lovable character when it comes to this league, and thank you to the run he had on TNT, and I can't wait to see what he'll be into next season.
Yeah, Damon lost his camera. Someone's like, we need Jillian, we need you. Barry,
yes.
we need Jillian to troubleshoot this.
That's
I'm going to tell you, this is the best show has looked in a really long time.
I look good in black. I wore the black shirt today. The black box right next to me, I think looks beautiful, Damon. What's next?
It looks good. So here's the deal. 1863, a little something called the Battle of the Alamo took place today. Wow. Rocking at the Alamo.
Have you visited? By the way, you've been there, right, Deb? You've been to San Antonio?
I have never been to San Antonio.
Okay, yeah. That's that. I would say. Well, for you, certainly, I would do a Final Four. You would enjoy. You would go do a Final Four weekend for San Antonio. I wouldn't tell you to just take Jillian, like, hey, we're going to San Antonio. Right. But for a Final Four, I think you'd enjoy it, and I think the trip to the Alamo is worth it.
It's a long way to fly for just queso and chips, but
exactly,
I would do it.
Yes.
Today in 1964, it wasn't his birthday, but he was reborn. The Nation of Islam gave Cassius Clay the name Muhammad Ali today in 1964. So in a weird way, happy birthday, Muhammad Ali, who's no longer with us anymore. It is a awesome documentary on Netflix about the recording of We Are the World. I recommend it highly to everyone. Go watch that documentary. Today, the song We Are the World was released in 1985. And in even bigger news, Sam, do you roll on Shomer Shabbos?
Oh, wow.
Today in 1998, The Big Lebowski hit theaters, and find me a movie that aged better, more gracefully, as fantastically. The Big Lebowski, the first time you see it, it is a solid 6.5, 7. Right. It kind of goes over your head a little bit. By the 15th time you've watched the movie, you agree, this is one of the greatest movies of all time.
Let it marinate. Let that movie marinate. And just every time it is on, try to leave it. If you've got the volume on your TV and that ends up on, please try to leave it. That is a special show.
I need more Sammy here. Hold on.
Give it to me. What do we got?
There is he.
There he is.
I just want full Sammy.
Yes, let's go full Sammy. What do we got? So Big Lebowski, by the way, and how many Halloween costumes come from Big Lebowski? How many just of your friends that aren't watching movies all the time and dropping movie lines? Big Lebowski comes up again and again and again and again. My friend Drew, who's in the chat right now, loves Lebowski, constantly bringing that up. And Jeff Bridges, who I remember from Starman, even that far back. But is there a more legendary role than Jeff Bridges and Big Lebowski, more synonymous with his career than Big Lebowski? That is unbelievable. Unreal. That's a good one. That is a great one for this day in history. And with that, we'll probably say goodbye, D. It's really great, and I love being here on the Plus. I absolutely love it. For those that are with us, please like and subscribe right here at the Plus. And again, check us out. Check out me and Andrew Siciliano at Thinking Out Loud, Siciliano and Sam. Please do. And with that, Jillian and Damon, they will be back. They will figure out the camera. They will absolutely get this right. Just like that. D. Bruce, I love it. And one other thing I wanted to say also about Shaq. Is there anyone who had better nicknames while he was playing than Shaq? I mean, Big Aristotle, the Cactus. I mean, who remembers Shaq, by the way, with the Suns? That is, I almost for and the Celtics. Could you imagine that? But the Cavs on the Shaq with the Cavs. I mean, Nothing I love more than Shaq. And to picture him, by the way, Shaq as a sheriff in Arizona with Arpaio. I would. Could you imagine getting pulled over by Shaquille O'Neal? I am so happy that TNT did that, and I hated it when it happened. I really did hate it when it happened. But there we go. We love you on the Blues. Come check us out, Thinking Out Loud, at Siciliano and Sam. And with that, we say and we bid adieu. Good night, and thanks for all of you in the chat. Continue to be here. You are the reason we do this, and we love it, and we'll be coming back for more. And please catch Damon tomorrow at the same time.
And all I can tell you, Sammy, all I can tell you, I had to come in here to let you know that you really tie the room together.
See, look at that. That's
Great
beautiful.
Job. Great job.
Beautiful.
And
thank you, D.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks for the supers. Like and subscribe. And please do remember that sports don't build character. They reveal it. And like that, they're gone. I'll also let you know that I once saw Shaq's penis in the locker room, and it ruined my ability to think that I could ever satisfy a woman.